government will be allocating $315 million or $5 million per constituency to assist as we all know, roofs are oftentimes the first point of failure during a storm, and the damage they incur can render families homeless or in dire conditions. The experience of Hurricane Beryl has served as a harsh reminder of climate change and the importance of resilience in our infrastructure. Many families were left exposed when their roofs were damaged or totally destroyed. What was clear is that the houses that followed the building codes, in particularly the construction of their roofs, or constructed their roofs from slab material, concrete, that those houses fared much better. And those persons faced less dislocation as a result of the passage of the hurricane. Despite distributing almost 14,000 Hurricane Beryl recovery grants, we know that there are many households across Jamaica that were also impacted by the heavy rainfall due to the unusual, Mr. Speaker, the unusual weather patterns between July and December. Leaky roofs were, of course, the obvious most frequent complaints. Members of Parliament are usually the first port of call for assistance. Recommended for the beneficiary are at the discretion of the Member of Parliament. Grants should be within the range of 70,000 to 100,000 to make meaningful improvements to roofs, windows, and sideboardings to ensure that more Jamaican shelters can withstand the next heavy rainfall, tropical depression, or hurricane. Persons who are already beneficiaries of the hurricane relief grant will not be able to benefit from this allocation. We will be checking to ensure that there are no duplications, Mr. Speaker, of allocations across programs. I urge all members of Parliament to work closely with their constituents to identify those households that are most in need of assistance. It is essential that we focus on the most vulnerable, particularly those who cannot afford to repair their homes themselves. It is crucial that this program is effective and impactful, ensuring the long-term resilience of our shelters, particularly roofs. One challenge that we have encountered in the past with such programs has been the inability of members of Parliament to identify registered hardware stores in their constituencies that have the capacity to provide the goods needed for repairs. And another important point, Mr. Speaker, that the hardware is in close proximity to the household that is in need. This has oftentimes resulted in higher transportation costs and delays. Sometimes the transportation cost is higher than the grant itself. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to announce that the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, through the National Spatial Data Management Branch, has now mapped every registered hardware and haberdashery across the island. This comprehensive map will not only provide members of Parliament with a complete list of all the hardware stores in their constituency, but the data has also been spatially represented so they can see where the hardware store is relative to the area of need. This means that at a glance, members of Parliament will be able to see where each hardware store is located in relation to the household in need of assistance. This will ensure that materials can be sourced locally, reducing transportation costs and improving the efficiency of the program. Another challenge that we have encountered is staffing resources. So, Mr. Speaker, in the last grant that we announced, it took some time for the grants to be approved because each grant had to be specifically assessed. Each beneficiary of a grant, their housing condition had to be assessed. And you can imagine, Mr. Speaker, how many persons we would have had to deploy, to go out into the field, to go and examine. So, Mr. Speaker, what we have decided to do, we will be leveraging the assessment staff of the CDF, of the Urban Renewal Program, and of the other units in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation to assist in the assessment process. Mr. Speaker, we will not be able to assess every beneficiary. And so what we will be doing is using representative samples and risk analysis to ensure that we can very quickly disperse the benefits. We wouldn't want, Mr. Speaker, to be in the next hurricane season and still not have the grants distributed. So we have to find expedited processes while keeping in compliance with the necessary rules that are in place regarding how these grants are distributed.